He's kooky, he's crazy, and he's got a name that just won't quit. His name is Alec Baldwin, and he's here to tell you, no matter what you might think about him, he definitely, positively, absolutely did nothing wrong.
I think this one's loaded. You want to find out?
This is Alec Watch. Well, it seems like there is just always more and more Alec Baldwin news. This is an article that just came out today, so I haven't even taken a lot of time to read through everything. I'm going to just read right through it here with everyone else. This is from the New York Post. Title is Rust Armor claims that Alec Baldwin ignored gun safety rules before deadly shooting. So I'll go ahead and just dive right into what the article says. The armor on the set of Alec Baldwin's flick Rust has accused him of violating gun safety rules and claimed she was not asked to inspect the revolver he used in the fatal shooting of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins. Now, there's been a lot of stuff where Alec Baldwin, in all of the conversation, has said that the reason that he's not responsible is that the armor obviously is one responsible for looking through the gun and then giving it to, in this case, they had the assistant director doing the job, and the assistant director then told him it was fine. So pretty much Alec Baldwin is saying the chain of command was followed, but something went wrong throughout the chain of command, and because it was followed, when it ended up to me, there was no way that I could be held liable. So effectively what Hannah Gutierrez-Reed is saying is that she wasn't actually asked to inspect the revolver or even really be there on the set, which, of course, if that is true, I think that makes Alec Baldwin seem even more liable, especially since I think the most important thing that I've said since the day after this happened is that if there's going to be charges towards Alec Baldwin, I think it would be in his capacity as a producer, more so than someone who, I think from what it seems like, if I had to guess, accidentally fired the gun. I think neglect in terms of someone who is in charge of logistics is probably where he's going to have more problems. And I think that this information speaks to a lack of logistical organization. And I think that if this is true, then this is probably going to be very, very damning for him. So then it goes on to quote what it was that she filed in her legal filing. Mr. Baldwin knew that he could never point a firearm at crew members under any circumstances, and he had a duty of safety to his fellow crew members, Gutierrez-Reed said in a statement Saturday, according to the network. Yet he did point the gun at Halyna before the fatal incident against all rules and common sense, she added. And that's one thing that, and I've said this a few times, I'm very happy that people like Nicolas Cage and George Clooney have come out and I think shown to have more character than you kind of give credit for to most celebrities, for saying that we do all have kind of an understanding. If you work with weapons, you're going to check the weapons. You're going to make sure that any type of precaution you would take outside of the job, if you were handed a firearm, you apply that while you're actually on the job. And I think this speaks to that exact same thing, that there is a certain level of common sense that regardless of whether or not legally everything ends up making Alec Baldwin not go to jail, I think that the way everything is going, I honestly thought a few weeks ago that Alec Baldwin was probably just going to get away with it. Things are going to go back to normal. Things are really souring, and I think it is more in this level of lacking such common sense that got someone killed. You literally, the way that those, live ammunitions are set apart visually from a blank or a dummy round, whatever is the correct term, essentially not a live round, you literally have to open the chamber and look at it for a second, and you know what it is that you're dealing with and if it's going to be dangerous or not. I think that's the common sense, lack of common sense that I think is going to end up doing him in, if not when it comes to legal proceedings, at least whenever it comes to his position in polite society. So then, Gutierrez-Reed said Baldwin and others on the Western set had a duty and responsibility to call Hannah in for inspection of the gun and safety instructions before any gun scene was conducted. And this is the part that is so bizarre. Here, I'll finish the quote. Hannah was not called into the church before the impromptu gun scene rehearsal, and she should have been, according to the statement cited by CDC. The rookie armor said she didn't know what was happening inside the church set on the day of the shooting and that the 63-year-old star was responsible for helping maintain the safety of the crew. Now, that most definitely harks back to what was said on the day after, right when information was coming out. We knew that it was not a scene that was really planned. This was something that they were practicing. It was kind of a last-minute thing. Very small amount of people actually on the set at this time. You really had the director, the cinematographer, Alec Baldwin, perhaps the assistant director. And what everyone was saying was that everyone was saying that the chain of command was being followed, which of course assumes that she's actually in the room. If we are now starting to get information that says she actually wasn't even called onto the set, that really, I think, blows open a lot of the benefit of the doubt that was being given to not just Alec Baldwin, but even the assistant director. If they didn't even let her know, hey, we're going to go and we're going to do something impromptu, it's going to require weapons and we need you. And that's a question that I honestly have, I probably need to speak to an entertainment lawyer on this. I've been thinking of getting a lawyer on to talk through some of these questions. If they're doing something that is not on the schedule, whose job is it to actually let the armorer know that, hey, we're going to go do something, we're going to need you, you're going to be needed? If they don't do that, and she doesn't know and it wasn't scheduled, where is the responsibility lying then? And that points right back to, we actually had a producer in the room. If Alec Baldwin says he's so experienced, he knows all of this stuff about how an actor actually, he's not supposed to do that, he's supposed to do this. Don't you know that you're supposed to, he clearly knows the armor is supposed to check. If the armor isn't in the room, I mean, this, even though she says, even though Hannah Gutierrez-Reed says that Alec Baldwin ignored gun safety rules, it doesn't even seem like it's kind of like the standard holding the gun. It seems just more of like you literally say the armorer is responsible, but you didn't even call the armorer into the room. Like that, I think, is probably even more damning than kind of this whole who checked it, who was there, who all this. The fact of if she was there or not, I think, is probably the big thing coming out of this. So then, going on, Gutierrez-Reed says she encountered constant restraint from Baldwin and production staffers during her time on the set, according to CNN. That's something everyone has been saying, that this was just cutting corners all the time. And you have this with these kind of smaller, what used to be just direct-to-DVD movies. It's kind of like, let's just get the thing done. And that really seems to be the type of environment they were setting up here. Hannah emphasized the importance of training Mr. Baldwin in the cross-draw, which is dangerous. The statement reportedly said he never accepted the offer, and Hannah was not able to conduct that training as well as other trainings she wanted to do because of budgeting and being overruled by production, just so many cutting corners. Then Baldwin claimed last week that Gutierrez-Reed ordered him not to double check that the revolver had no live bullets in it, saying it was her job to check the gun, not his. That is very strange. So Baldwin claimed last week that Gutierrez-Reed ordered him not to double check that the revolver had no live bullets in it. But that's the thing. There's a certain thing with comment, and that part right there really is getting into he said, she said, and to this degree, a statement like that really does seem like Baldwin is kind of just laying it all on the line to not actually have to go to prison anyway. I don't see how these types of statements don't just kind of completely destroy you in public life. And this thing's been very, very public. And kind of like I've said, like, why are there so many Alec Baldwin video breakdowns, all this stuff? Why am I doing another video about this? Because the inability of so many people involved in here to actually acknowledge it turns it into an even bigger story that you kind of have to figure out what's really going on here. And because it's got someone like Alec Baldwin, it ties so much more into what's going on in the heart of the industry, kind of the way that people in the industry at the high level see themselves. Because I'm stunned that we've even gotten to the place we're at here. So it goes on to say, an actor cannot rule that a gun is safe. That is the responsibility of other people on the set, Baldwin said in legal papers filed Friday, in which he denied any responsibility for shooting Hutchins. Reading that statement is just so bizarre. How is that? How you hold the gun and, you end up shooting someone and then, look, I didn't do any of that. That was someone else must have been on that set. I wasn't doing that at all. It's the gif of Charlie Day from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. You got to just do a whole bunch of mental gymnastics. So he insisted that every single mistake leading to the October 21 shooting on the New Mexico set was performed by someone else. Baldwin's filing revealed that he made an exhaustive effort to get the crew back together to finish the doomed movie, even after a flurry of lawsuits blamed him for Mom of One Hutchins' death. This is a rare instance when the system broke down and someone should be held legally culpable for the tragic consequences, the star's lawyer, Luke Nikas, wrote in an arbitration filing. That it was so strange to hear that Baldwin wanted to finish the movie because he wanted to then have the money that the movie made go to the Hutchins family, which, how popular did you think Rust was going to be? It was not going to be that popular. So the arbitration demand against Baldwin's fellow producers claimed his contract protects him from any financial responsibility in a multitude of lawsuits filed against him, including the wrongful death complaint filed by Hutchins' widow. And there hasn't been any details about how exactly that happens, but I'm not really sure how that would work, how something like this would fit into that. Like if you shoot someone on set, you can't be responsible because that hasn't come out how that happened, but I don't see how that would work. The arbitration demand against Baldwin's fellow producers claim his... Oh, already read that. Even without that clause, Baldwin was completely innocent in the unthinkable tragedy, according to the filing, which revealed he was paid $250,000 to star in and produced a low-budget movie. Hutchins described what she would like Baldwin to do with the placement of the gun. She directed Baldwin to hold the gun higher, the point where it was directed towards her. Baldwin filing states, in giving and following these instructions, Hutchins and Baldwin shared a core, vital, I hate this statement, vital belief that the gun was cold and contained no live rounds. Just trying in public perception to kind of make Baldwin as much a victim as Hutchins. It's just so bizarre. Baldwin asked Hutchins whether she wanted to see him cock the gun as the script required. She responded yes, the filing stated. Attorneys for Hutchins' family accused Baldwin in his statement of trying to avoid liability and accountability for his reckless actions. I would say yes. Again, and that's something that I've said this whole time. Like, I don't think, if I had to bet, I would not think that Baldwin intentionally killed anyone. Like, I don't think that this is murder. But there's a huge difference between saying that someone holds 100% responsibility and 5% responsibility. There's really an even larger difference between saying someone holds 5% responsibility and 0 responsibility. Like think about it, like having no responsibility for someone's death and having 1% responsibility. That's massively different. And Baldwin is pretty much trying to say, look, I've got 0 responsibility here. And anyone that looks at this, that just makes no sense. I don't think, here, I'm not saying the information that I'm seeing that he is 100% responsible. But if anyone is saying that they're 0% responsible in this whole chain of command, look, and I get it, you're trying to avoid jail time. But if you're working at the level that Alec Baldwin is at, that is feels nasty. It feels really nasty. So then the article closes off, Baldwin's disclosure of personal text with Matt Hutchins is irrelevant to his demand for arbitration and fails to demonstrate anything other than Hutchins' dignity in his engagement with Baldwin. The statement said, it is shameful that Baldwin claims Hutchins' actions in filing a wrongful death lawsuit derailed the completion of Rust. The only action that ended the film's production was Baldwin's killing of Halyna Hutchins, the attorney said. So rereading that, what they said there, it is shameful that Baldwin claims Hutchins' actions in filing a wrongful death lawsuit derailed the completion of Rust. It really is, and it feels like real desperation. I feel like it would just show much more character if you just kind of, fall, or he almost did fall on the sword. It's kind of like just admit the fact that you fell on the sword. You're laying on the ground there. You're bleeding out, and you're kind of pretending like you're as good as always. It is very strange to blame the person that died for what is going on. And he does actually do that. Like he pretty much says, look, I've got 0 responsibility, but she's probably got like 5% responsibility. Very creepy stuff. And yeah, it's a sad story. It's sad that it's, continuing in this way, but it just doesn't stop. This thing just does. And what do you say? The criminal charges haven't even been released yet, and I wonder if all of this that's happening in the public is changing the perception, because that it's got to be intimidating, at least, to be maybe doling out criminal charges for very, very high profile people, especially with something like this. Because man, if he ends up being charged and Hollywood does back him, it's gonna be an avalanche of sorts. But we'll see what happens. And look, for all Alec Baldwin information, this I do think is honestly a powder keg in a lot of ways, this story. So we're going to be following everything that happens, because I think every piece of information that comes out seems to be very, very vital to what's actually going on here. And obviously this is an entertainment story. So if you want more movie reviews and movie news, please follow 5 Minute Critic.